Hello and welcome to this Simply Naturals products presentation. It's worth just taking a step back first and having a look at what the company is all about. The primary purpose of this business is to actually educate people about the significance of plant-derived minerals and the impact, the benefit they can have on our overall health and well-being. This video is absolutely part of that education process. In addition, the company is committed to producing a portfolio of the most bioavailable products on the market anywhere in the world. In other words, products that the body can naturally use. And finally, the first significant goal that we have as an overall company is to remineralize 1 million families by 2020. So this is the product. This is what all the fuss is about. It's called Sizzling Minerals. Comes in a box exactly like this, and you get 2 tubes with 15 of these mineral tablets in each. It says here it's a life-changing health product. That is a phrase that often is glibly used, but in this case, the company was founded because the owner of the business is in no doubt that his life was saved because of these products. And there are many, many thousands of people now who have their own fantastic testimonials that give absolute validation to the fact that this changes and enhances the qualities of people's lives. It's also interesting to note that no other company has this. You can't buy this anywhere else. You can't buy it through the stores. This is the sole property of Simply Naturals, and it is manufactured, and the whole licensing process is owned by them. In addition, the bottom line, everyone needs it. This is a stunning fact. It's a shocking fact when it comes to our health, but it's true. And this is something, again, that is not a generalization or that we glibly use, and we will demonstrate the fact that everyone needs it in this very presentation. First of all, though, let's have a look at minerals. Why minerals? What's all the fuss about? Well, Dr. Linus Pauling, you might have heard of him. He won 2 Nobel Prizes. There's a huge research center that's named after him in the United States. He actually did the majority of his work initially on vitamins, and it wasn't until he then opened the door to minerals that he realized that that was really where his research needed to go. Now, as you read this, just consider not just yourself, but your friends, your family, loved ones, work colleagues, absolutely everybody, and think about this statement, which is hugely significant. Dr. Linus Pauling came to the conclusion that you can trace every sickness, every disease, and every ailment to a mineral deficiency, which raises a few questions which we'll look at later on. In addition, Dr. Gary Price Todd, he's authored a number of books on the subject of plant-derived minerals, and he concluded that our bodies need at least 60 a day in order, not for optimum health, but to maintain a disease and ailment-free state. Now, if you consider that most people might be getting between 20 and 25 minerals a day, then you begin to see literally the gap that is emerging in people's health and well-being. So, establishing already that there's a big gap in terms of people's mineral intake, let's have a look at, over a period of time, what areas of the body get affected. And as you can see from this list, we're almost talking about the entire body's ability to function. First of all, you've got your immune system. This is anything from coughs and colds to superbugs, all the way up the scale. The immune system needs to have minerals, and if you don't have sufficient minerals, then you are leaving yourself wide open to viruses, any kind of bugs that are going along. It's no wonder that over the last 10 to 15 years, more and more people, even getting the cold, have struggled to shake it off and then have taken weeks to get back up to normal health, and often actually have had a relapse. Healthy bones. Bones, of course, are made of calcium. It's a primary mineral. And there's much that we have in our daily diet and also levels of stress that actually can cause the calcium to actually get leached out of the system. So osteoporosis is something that many people know is a painful, brittle bone situation. Enzyme function, basically we're talking about your digestive system here. There are millions upon millions of people that don't even realize that their digestive system is not functioning properly. And that is a huge, huge matter of concern if over periods of years you just don't actually function. Balanced pH. There's a strong school of thought that states that the body, which is just naturally in an alkaline state, when it goes over into the acidic realm, it then again leaves itself open to all sorts of disease, not least cancer. Now, when you think that coffee, tea, dairy products, wheat, alcohol, smoking, pasta, a whole range of different products, and meat as well, and sugar massively, cause the body to go acidic. Every single moment of every single day, the body is trying to push itself back into the naturally alkaline state. If you do not have proper plant-derived minerals, you cannot do this sufficiently. Cellular health. This in itself is absolutely fascinating. We have over 1 trillion cells in our body. Now consider this. Imagine each cell is like a little tiny battery, and you've got the 2 terminals on it. And also imagine that those terminals are kind of oxidized, so you can't get the energy flow through properly. This is kind of what happens. It's a metaphor for what happens if you don't, again, have sufficient levels of minerals in your body. So many people, they even wake up feeling tired. How terrible is that? They're tired during the day. They're constantly just below par. But tragically, many people think that's now the norm. And then when you add at the bottom, this is something else that Linus Pauling came to, this conclusion that without minerals, vitamins cannot be absorbed by the body and they're virtually useless. You can then see a whole other aspect of the body where it cannot actually process, again, some of the things that it needs. Now, this is a really interesting question. Do you think you are healthy right now? Have you heard of this phrase called subclinical disease? It's actually a disease without symptoms. It's something which takes place over a period of time, and it can end up manifesting into a whole range of different diagnosable conditions. Let's have a look at the different stages. Stage 1, there are no physical symptoms as such. This is kind of when the body is sort of deciding which way it's going to go. Stage 2, you get certain warning signs coming in, such as allergies and headaches. And I would point out, if you have an allergy or a headache, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a stage 2 symptom, but it could be. Mild fatigue, painful joints, particularly in the fingers and the toes, hands and ankles. All of these can be early symptoms, and then you get to the final stage. This can take years to get to. When it gets serious, it actually manifests as often a diagnosable condition. Now, the bad news is plant mineral deficiency is a major cause of degenerative subclinical disease. The good news also, however, is that plant mineral deficiency is a major cause of degenerative subclinical disease. Why this is good news is because if you then take plant-derived minerals, it then gives the body what it needs to then alter the direction and set itself back on the path towards health and wellness. This is quite literally preventative medicine in action. Why wait until things get serious? Now, tragically, you can look down this list and it's most likely that you will know several people who suffer with several of these conditions. Maybe you yourself watching this have one of these as well. And the solution tends to be that you go to your doctor gives you another prescription to try, and often nothing seems to happen. Here's a question that I would like to pose to you right now. Given what we've seen about what happens if you don't have sufficient levels of minerals in your body, what if, just supposing, what if these conditions weren't actually these conditions, and what if instead all that they were mineral deficiency? What if taking minerals could actually correct these over a period of time? That is a very, very interesting question, and one I hope you consider. Now, I said earlier on that we would demonstrate to you in this presentation why it is that everyone needs these minerals, and I hope that you find these figures shocking. The reason being is because there's a crisis that is right on our doorstep and people need to wake up to what's going on. First of all, if you take a look at that graph, you'll see that actually that has been looked at and analysed over 100 years. That's not a flash in the pan, sudden knee-jerk reaction. Secondly, if you have a look at the organisations that have contributed towards this data and these conclusions, you'll see that they're recognised around the world for being authorities in their field. And thirdly, take a look at their conclusions. In terms of mineral depletion, have a look at Europe. The UK is at the top of the league in Europe. We're a small island, overpopulated, overfarmed. The soil doesn't get fed what it needs to. It just has minerals taken out of it over hundreds and hundreds of years. But then you go to the top there, you look at North America, the United States of America, 85% depletion. And in some areas, there are no minerals left in the ground at all because of overfarming, poor quality so-called fertilizer or chemicals that have gone into the ground. It is absolutely shocking. Now, you might be sitting there feeling a little smug because you buy and eat organic food. Well, sadly, an apple a day no longer keeps the doctor away. Not when you look at the kind of levels of reduction here. Again, over a very long period of time, iron has been reduced by over 96%. You've got phosphorus and magnesium, both of them reduced by over 80%. The reason why an apple a day does no longer keep the doctor away is because there's not a lot of goodness left in it. Now, the point of this is not to have an argument about pro-organic or pro-non-organic. The point to make here is that it's the soil that all of our food is grown in that is seriously and desperately depleted. This book, Naked Calories, also has its own shocking statistics. Using the so-called American diet, it states that you need to consume getting on for 28,000 calories per day in order to get your nutritional quota, in other words, your minerals. Now, also do note, USA FDA guidelines talks about 27 micronutrients per day. That 27 micronutrients per day is pitifully low. So it's just like over in the UK, in terms of the recommended daily allowance with regards to vitamins, it's just enough to prevent you from catching scurvy. It's not about optimum health. And when you look at that top statement, that is the real tragedy here. Obesity is a huge, huge problem, and it's literally getting bigger in every sense. And the problem is, and the tragedy is that people are eating vast amounts of food, but are still hungry because what they are craving is nutrients. And that is a tragic, tragic state of affairs. So here's a question. If there's little to no minerals in the soil, and there's little to no minerals in our food, where quite literally on Earth do you go? Well, where we go is we go back in time, 75 million years ago, when Brontosaurus used to roam the Earth, when you had trees that had leaves the size of bus shelters, and the soil was so abundant in minerals. And of course, no chemicals, no man-made toxins going into it at all. So what then happened is, as we know, we had the Ice Age, and a huge glacier then pushed the minerals underground. It pushed the topsoil underground. It's kind of like locking it up into an icy Tupperware container. And the significance of that is that it meant that they did not fossilize. They did not turn into rock. What happened is that they became a vegetate. And here we are now, 75 million years later, unearthing this treasure that's been lying in the soil and extracting it using pure water, filtering it out with filters, and also leaving it to dry over a long period of time and making our plant-derived mineral powder from that. From those, that of course is what we make our tablets from, and that is also what then results in something which is highly affordable pretty much for everyone. As I said earlier, they come in a box exactly like this. You get 1 month's supply, so you have 2 tubes with 15 tablets in each tube, and each of these tablets contains 75 pure plant minerals. There's no artificial colors. The colors are from fruit and vegetables, and so what that means is that vegans and vegetarians can use them, and also anybody of all ages. Now think about this in terms of both ends of the spectrum. You've got younger kids today who are drinking energy drinks. Energy drinks fundamentally fry the adrenal system. They're also often full of caffeine and often full of sugar or sweeteners. They do not do any good at all. But here's the question. Why do so many people need energy? Could it be that it's because they don't get the right level of minerals in their diet so that their body actually cannot generate sufficient energy? So this is ideal for young people. It's perfect. Move them away from these adrenal thumping energy drinks and give them these minerals over a period of time and just see how they feel, what they notice. Secondly, at the other end of the age spectrum, what we recommend for most elderly people is that they break one of these in half. They put half in a glass of water in the morning and sip it, and the second half in the glass of water in the afternoon and sip that, just to notice how they get on. So it's absolutely anybody and everybody that can take these. Use water. Some people do add a cordial, but try them first. There's a fresh, natural flavor that goes with them. Very, very pleasant. What you will also notice as you drink them is that you get noticeable health benefits. Many people take a lot of nutrition and kind of think that it's doing them good, but most of that is because everybody says you should take it. With Sizzling Minerals, it is so often that you will tangibly notice a difference, often in a short period of time. I've used this phrase plant-derived minerals many times. So what is it about plant-derived minerals? You can get metallic minerals, you can get minerals on the high street wherever you go. Another way of putting this is that as far as the human body is concerned, when is a mineral not a mineral? And that's really what we'll have a look at. This demonstrates very well what the problem is with metallic minerals versus plant minerals. When you look at and compare a metallic mineral molecule to that of a plant mineral, it's like comparing a football to a pinhead. The relevance of this is that a plant mineral molecule is 7,000 times smaller than a human blood cell, and what that means is that the body can actually absorb it. When it comes to metallic or chelated minerals, the molecules, because they are too big, means that the body might absorb up to 20%, normally around 10%. When you then think that people would go to their local store and they'll buy their iron, and they might buy their calcium, they might buy another mineral or 2 or 3 extra in order to give the body what it needs. Think of the cost of that. And then when you think that the body will only absorb possibly 20% of those, compared to our own 75 minerals per tablet, of which the body absorbs 100%, you can see that it just completely knocks metallic minerals right out of the park. It is important to understand that Simply Naturals do not make any claims about curing anything. How it seems is that upon taking Sizzling Minerals, plant-derived minerals, the body's own ability to heal itself is enhanced and empowered. How is it that people who have, for instance, ME, a lady in her 70s, it usually took her about an hour and a half to get up in the morning. She took one of these tablets in the morning, and first of all she noticed that her sight had improved because she could see fingerprints on the mirror on her bedroom wall. When she got over how incredible that was, she realized that actually she was full of energy. It took her 10 minutes to get out of bed. Her friends, of course, noticed a change. For the first time in years, she not only managed to buy all the food to do Christmas lunch for her children, she moved the furniture around her apartment, and she cooked dinner, and it was her kids who actually were snoozing in the armchair and the sofa while she did the washing up because she was so full of beans. She hadn't been able to do that for years. How is it that people who have arthritic pains suddenly either have them massively reduced or they have disappeared? It's interesting that people with blood pressure find that their blood pressure is normalized. It's interesting that people who have something as apparently mundane as acne, it clears up within a couple of weeks. For myself, I collapsed. I was ambulanced into hospital with an alarmingly high temperature. They didn't know what had happened, but when my temperature dropped, I was then left sleeping for 20 to 22 hours a day for nearly 3 weeks. There were times when I was so weak, I actually literally did not have the energy to turn over in bed. I was given one of these tablets, and in about 20 minutes, my energy returned by about 70%. It wasn't a buzz like I'd had 3 or 4 cups of coffee. It was like somebody had just very gently turned the tap on, and I felt wonderful. I felt incredibly calm. I took another one by the end of the day, and the following day I was up and about almost as if nothing had happened. So whilst we make no claims, you will hear extraordinary stories of people's recovery, either partially or completely. The other end of the spectrum, we have athletes, Olympic standard athletes, Commonwealth Games athletes. We have athletes who are in the Premier Leagues of their particular sport, who are consistently coming back and feeding back to us that they have access to greater energy, that they have a greater ability to focus and concentrate, and also that their recovery time is massively reduced. So all spectrums of health and wellness, from those who don't have that much, not in great condition, to those who are at their peak, everybody across the board is reporting significant improvements. So having given you some what sounds like fairly sensational examples, there are also people who don't notice either anything or very little over a period of time. But let's have a look at this, because this is really interesting. We had a Harley Street doctor who wanted to be 100% sure that his clients, if he gave them Sizzling Minerals, were actually getting some kind of benefit. So he did his own blood analysis. Now you have a look at those top 3 slides. You don't need to know much about blood to be able to see that the blood cells in the top 3 slides, they're limp, they're sticking together, there's no energy or vitality to them at all. They're clumping together, which is really a problematic one in terms of potential blood clots. Now, take a look at the bottom 3. This is just in 5 weeks. The blood cells are totally different. They're rounder, they're energized, they're not sticking together, and you can tell that the level and the quality of that blood is superior. Now that's just in 5 weeks. So it's not going to be the case that if you take these, you're going to be strolling along one day and 5 weeks down the line, you're going to go, do you know, I could swear that my blood is feeling a lot cleaner. That's not going to happen. However, just imagine this. Your blood is the major transporter of nutrition around the body. So if your blood is so significantly improved in a 5-week period, and it's pumping into all the major organs of your body, what do you think the difference is going to happen to those major organs? What do you think is going to happen to your brain? What do you think is going to happen to your tissues? The very bone structure of your body. It could be fair to say that you cannot not benefit from taking Sizzling Minerals, even if you don't physically notice any change over that period. But this is also why we recommend that people take these for a minimum of 3 months in order to give the body time to process this and basically pass it around. Having heard what you've heard, it will come as little surprise that we're now getting significant expert endorsements from therapists, nutritionists, beauty therapists right the way across the board because of the responses that they personally and also their clients are getting. And this, without a shadow of a doubt, will continue to be the case. Ken Adderson works right at the top of his game. He works with the premier of the premier in terms of footballers, and so you don't muck around with these guys. You only give them stuff that works. Now look at Ken's testimonial. There's really not a lot more to say. Since being introduced to Sizzling Minerals several months ago, I have no hesitation in recommending this exceptional product. It is the ultimate health supplement for anyone who wishes to enhance and promote their general health and well-being. With 75 minerals in every wafer, it is beyond comparison and is by far the best product of its kind on the market today. I mentioned that we have world-class athletes that are taking these Sizzling Minerals, and this is something the company did to offer athletes, sportsmen and women of all levels, reassurance, and that is to have the products tested by LGC. LGC is a company that is recognized by the International Athletics Association, and it tests products for any potential banned substances. So any athlete can take these knowing that our Sizzling Minerals are 100% clean. In addition, to give customers added confidence, what the company did was that they had all of the marketing materials, including and particularly the website, vetted by this doctor's trusted organization. This is a totally autonomous group of doctors who are highly qualified in themselves and rigorously examined prior to becoming a member of the board. They will test, go through every statement that is made and give it the seal of approval so that consumers know that what is being said is indeed the case. I would strongly recommend that you take a look at sizzlingtestimonials.com. As the name suggests, this is where you'll find a whole raft of different testimonials. What's interesting about it is that it's actually allocated in terms of people who have been suffering with specific conditions. So you can go and have a look at what impacts this has had on certain conditions. And also, as you read them, these are really moving stories. This is real life stuff where people are taking Sizzling Minerals, their bodies are responding, and then their lives are transforming, sometimes to an incredible level. So it's an extraordinary sight to go and have a look. Peter Willoughby is the Simply story. He's one of the shareholders of Simply Naturals, and he's also the CEO. But it's absolutely the case that this company is in existence primarily because of this one remarkable man. His story that you're going to hear in a minute is both jaw-dropping and, you should be warned, shocking. But it also underlines what these minerals can do, and it also absolutely demonstrates you what the motivation of this business is, the mission of this business, and why it's come into being. So at the age of 17, Peter was on a motorbike and he was hit by a drunk driver in a truck, in an HGV. The impact was so strong that Peter went through the windscreen, through the cockpit, out the back of the truck, would you believe, and landed in the road, fortunately unconscious. And I say fortunately because then this individual in the truck decided he was going to make a break for it, slammed it into reverse, and drove over Peter's body. He then put it into first gear, if that wasn't bad enough, and he drove over Peter's body again. It is not an exaggeration to say that Peter's body was crushed, with the exception, would you believe, of his spine and his right arm. Peter, of course, was rushed to hospital. He was on life support.